Hi everybody, and thank you again for watching Gaffer and Gear. In today's episode, we're going to take a look at the ASTERA RunTime Extender. So what are these things for? Well, the bulk of ASTERA lights have built-in batteries. Now, if you don't have access to AC power, you are limited to the runtime of the internal battery. But not only that, the electronics inside most of the ASTERA lights runs at 24 volts. Now, the engineers made that decision because 24 volts gives you the optimum lifetime out of the internal electronics. But that doesn't help us when it comes to running the lights off batteries because our batteries are not 24 volts. So the RunTime Extender takes your V-mount batteries or your gold mount batteries and converts them to 24 volts out, so it will run your ASTERA products. Not only that, you can mount these to a clamp to put them on your light stand, and with some of the ASTERA lights, you can even mount directly onto the stirrup. Let's start off with the regular disclaimers. ASTERA are not paying me any money for this review, and I have no financial agreements in place with them. However, they did send me the product for free, and I do get to keep it or sell it at the end of the review. So technically that makes this a paid endorsement, or at the very least, a paid product placement. And that could possibly affect my opinion on some level. So I think that is something you need to be aware of. But let's see how much it's affected my opinion by getting into the negatives first. Now, the first negative for some people might be the price point, because at the end of the day, this is essentially a battery plate, and a very expensive battery plate. But the build quality is sensational. Apart from the outlet plugs, everything on this is metal. The button's metal, all of the bits around here where the battery connects, that's all solid metal. You do not want to drop this thing on your toes, I'll give you the tip. But that, of course, makes it expensive. Now, if you're an owner-operator and you're not using this very often, you might have a hard time, particularly with the kit of 4, getting a return on your investment. So that is why I consider it to possibly be a negative. But if you're running a rentals company, this is an absolute positive. These things would be almost impossible to destroy. All right, the next possible negative is this thing can output 100 watt. And if you're using the Helios tubes, these things have a maximum power draw of 24 watt. So 100 watt output, 24 watt power draw. So you're probably assuming that you can run 4 of these off the RunTime Extender. You can only run 2. And the reason you can only run 2 is the RunTime Extender only has 2 power outlets, and you can't piggyback the power off your Helios tube. The next possible negative is its IP rating. It has a dust protection rating of 2, but its water resistance rating is 0. This is something to be aware of because ASTERA's lights can be used in the rain. And the last possible negative, or more something to be aware of, is to do with the rubber around the terminals. When these are new and they haven't been used much, the rubber hasn't compressed down. And this can affect the tolerance on the locking of some of your V-mount batteries. Some of your batteries might not connect perfectly in the first month or so that you are using them. So let's get our cheapest battery that I've got here, which is a KMTV unit. And that locks on really securely and disconnects very easily. Let's have a look at an Anton Bauer now, arguably one of the best batteries made. That locks on really securely, and it can be a little bit difficult to get off. Now let's have a look at the Dynacore batteries, which I have loads of. The Dynacore batteries do not lock on very well. Now, I put this down to the rubber. Now, this one I haven't used very often, but here's one that I've used quite extensively. So let's put the Dynacore battery back onto this one. Make sure it's seated well. And that is a long-term relationship. Okay, let's go through the pros now and a quick product overview. It is very well built and has some very good mounting options. Now, it can run off 14.4 volt batteries, 14.8 volt batteries, which is pretty much the same thing, and 26 volt batteries. Your front plate is your battery mount, and at least on the V-mount version, that is all metal. On the back of the product, you have an airline rail for mounting. On one side, you have another airline rail for mounting and a direct battery output. So just to note, this 3-pin XLR is not regulated. The power's coming directly off the battery. On the opposite side, you have your battery release button, a status indicator light, and your two 24 volt regulated outlets, which can do 100 watts in total. And on the top, you've got your releases for the airline rails. Now with the two rail positions, you can mount your clamp onto the back of the runtime extender or onto the side of the runtime extender, whatever floats your boat. Okay, let's go through a list of what lights we can run with the runtime extender. Now, bear in mind, this is just what I've got here in my workshop that I've tested, and into the future, ASTERA will have more products, so always go to the website and check out the latest listings. All right, we can run 2 Titan tubes, 2 Helios tubes, 1 Hyperon tube, 4 Hydra panels, 4 pixel bricks, 1 Pluto Fresnel, 1 Leo Fresnel. We can run the Lunar Bulb prep case, and we can run the Nix Bulb power station controller. Now with your tube lights, it's pretty obvious. You just run a cable out of the runtime extender and into the tube. But what if you want to run 4 tubes in a configuration like this? You can actually link 2 of the runtime extenders together and mount them to the stand with the 1 clamp. In the 4-piece kit, you get these rail adapters. So you can put that into the back rail on one of the runtime extenders, get your second runtime extender and link them together. Then get your rail mount with your spigot and put that into one of your runtime extenders, and then mount your MAFA or super clamp onto that spigot. And there you go, as simple as that. Now you don't need to use the runtime extender just to power the lights. Let's say I've got 8 of these tubes and I'm using 4 on set without any cables attached to them. And I want to charge the other 4, but I don't have access to AC power. You can use the runtime extenders to charge the tubes. Now let's take this concept another step forward with the Hydra panel kit. Now the runtime extender has 2 24 volt outlets, but because you can piggyback power off the Hydra panels, you can run up to 4 Hydra panels off a runtime extender in various different cable configurations. But let's say I want to charge my Hydra panel kit and I don't have access to AC power to run the power supply. Well, the power supply is 24 volt, same as the runtime extender, and it uses the same connections. So I can just plug my runtime extender into the case like I would the power supply, and now I am charging my Hydra panel kit in the case using the runtime extender and one of my V-mount batteries. Lunar bulbs. These don't have DC inlets, so we can't run them off the runtime extender, but we can run the prep case or charge the prep case off the runtime extender if we don't have access to our AC power. Nix bulbs. These do have a DC inlet, but it's 5 to 18 volts, so the runtime extender won't plug into it. However, you could run using the runtime extender via the controller. Probably not practical to do that, but you can run the controller or top up the power to the controller via the runtime extender. And the last ASTERA product I have is my Pluto Fresnel. Now we could have the runtime extender and the battery connected to the light stand, or we can attach the runtime extender to the stirrup of the light. Okay, let's go through price and what you get for your money. So this isn't actually that easy to find lots of listings online for, so the prices are a little bit random today. All right, so a single unit, I found a listing at 415 Australian dollars and 138 euros. I can't find a US dollar price. Now, it is very unclear as to what you get for that money. I don't know if you just get this or if you get any clamps. The listings are not all that clear. All right, now in terms of this 4 kit here, I found a US dollar price, 1,044 US dollars. And about 800 euros. I can't find an Australian dollar price point. All right, so let's go through what you get in this kit. All right, you get 4 of these MAFA or super clamp style clamps for connecting the runtime extenders to your light stand. You get 4 of these rail adapters with spigots so that you can connect the clamp to the runtime extender. You get 4 of these adapters. So these adapters enable you to link multiple runtime extenders together. Now there must be some other use for these that I haven't figured out, because why would you get 4 of them? Okay, you get 4 of the runtime extenders and you also get 4 cables. Now you can get cables in different lengths from ASTERA. Just have a look at their website to see what is available. Now just my closing thoughts on this kit. It'll be interesting to see how it goes in rentals. There's a possibility that instead of hiring 8 tubes off me, somebody might just hire 4 and the Runtime Extender kit. Now if people have their own batteries, it makes sense to hire the Runtime Extender kit, but if they're hiring the batteries off me as well, it could be getting a little bit too expensive. As an owner-operator that already owns the V-mount batteries, this kit makes a lot of sense to me. It's very easy to hide these power supplies around, as opposed to say trying to hide an EcoFlow if I don't have access to AC power. But the flip side to this is, if you don't need to conceal these on the site, they can just be off to one side where they're not going to be in shot. It would actually make more sense to hire something like an EcoFlow as opposed to hiring these and then hiring the batteries on top. I'm Andrew Locke. See you on the next episode of Gaffer and Gear. Thank you very much for watching.